The first time I noticed my neighbor, it was because of something small. Something so small that at the time it felt stupid to even think about. Every night, at exactly 2:13 in the morning, his kitchen light turned on. Not 2:12, not 2:14, always 2:13. At first I thought it was just a habit. Maybe he worked late, maybe he liked midnight coffee, maybe he couldn't sleep. But after 7 nights in a row, I realized something that made my stomach twist. He never ate. He never sat down. He just stood there, in the exact same spot, looking out the window, looking directly at my house, at my window, at me. I told myself it was a coincidence. I even laughed about it. But then I started noticing other things, strange things, things that made no sense. Every morning his trash cans were empty. No deliveries ever came. No visitors, no car in the driveway. Yet somehow, every night he was there, watching, standing still like he was waiting for something, or someone. That's when curiosity took over. I told myself I'd watch him for one night, just one, just to prove to myself there was nothing strange happening next door. But what I saw that night changed everything, and if I had ignored it, maybe things would be different now. Maybe I wouldn't be telling this story. Maybe I wouldn't be afraid to look out my own window after dark. Because the truth about my neighbor wasn't just disturbing, it was terrifying. I live in a quiet street in a small neighborhood where nothing ever happens. The kind of place where people wave at each other, mow their lawns every Saturday, and complain when someone parks too close to their mailbox. It's predictable, safe, boring. That's why when the new neighbor moved in, everyone noticed. Not because he was loud or strange at first, but because he was invisible. No moving truck, no furniture delivery. One day the house was empty, and the next day the blinds were closed and someone was living there. Nobody saw him move in. Nobody knew his name. And for weeks nobody saw him outside. It became a neighborhood joke, the ghost next door. But then I started seeing him, late at night, through the kitchen window, always standing, always still. It became part of my routine. I'd wake up, look outside, and there he was, like a statue. At first I thought maybe he was lonely, maybe grieving, maybe broken. But then little things started adding up, things I couldn't ignore. And before I tell you what happened, I want to know where you're watching from right now. Drop your city in the comments. I always like seeing how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy real mystery stories that make you question everything around you, subscribe to the Curious Neighbor's Diary and turn on notifications. Because some stories don't end when the video does. And trust me, this one definitely didn't. At first, watching him became almost like a game. Every night before bed, I'd peek through my blinds to see if he was there. And every night, without fail, he was. Same time, same place, same posture, hands at his sides, head tilted slightly toward my house. The weirdest part wasn't that he stood there, it was that he never moved. Not once. I tested it. One night I sat at my window for almost 40 minutes. He didn't scratch his face, didn't shift his weight, didn't even seem to blink. It felt unnatural. Human bodies move, even when standing still. But he looked frozen, like a photograph. A week later I mentioned it to my friend Daniel. He laughed and told me I was bored and making up patterns. Maybe the guy's just weird, he said. And honestly, that explanation made sense. People are weird, but weird doesn't explain what happened next. One morning I found footprints in my backyard. The ground had been wet from rain the night before, and there they were, fresh, leading from the fence that separated our houses straight to my back window, the window facing my bedroom. My heart started pounding. I checked the security camera I kept over the garage, but the angle didn't cover the backyard. I told myself it could have been anyone, a prank, a kid, but deep down, I knew. That night I stayed awake. At 2:13, his kitchen light came on, and there he was, standing, watching. But this time, something was different. His head was tilted lower, not toward my window, toward my backyard, toward the footprints. I felt cold all over, like he knew I had seen them, like he wanted me to know. That's when curiosity stopped being harmless and became fear. The next day, I asked around the neighborhood. Nobody knew much. Mrs. Carter from across the street said she'd seen him once, carrying boxes at night. Mr. Jenkins said he thought the house had been sold months ago but never saw a realtor sign. Nobody knew his name. Nobody had spoken to him. That made no sense. How do you live next to someone and know absolutely nothing about them? So I looked online. Property records showed the house belonged to someone named Arthur Vale. But when I searched the name, Nothing came up. No social media, no public records, no photos, nothing. It was like Arthur Vale didn't exist. That night, I decided to do something stupid. I went outside. At 2 in the morning, I stood in my backyard and stared at his kitchen window. The light turned on, 2:13, and there he was, standing, looking straight at me. For the first time, I knew for sure. He wasn't just staring in my direction. He was staring at me, directly, like he had been waiting. I ran back inside and locked every door. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my keys. I barely slept. The next morning I noticed something worse. On my kitchen window, fingerprints. From the outside, long, smudged, fresh, like someone had pressed their hand against the glass, watching me while I slept. I called the police. They came, looked around, took notes, but without proof there wasn't much they could do. The officer asked if I had actually seen someone. I hesitated, because how do you explain this without sounding insane? My neighbor watches me every night. He looked unconvinced. Said to call again if anything else happened. Anything else. As if this wasn't enough. That night, I installed another camera. Backyard, front yard, side gate, every angle. At 2:13, I watched the live feed. Kitchen light on. Arthur in the window. Still, watching. At 3:27, motion alert. Backyard. I froze. Someone was there. A figure. Tall. Standing by my bedroom window. I switched cameras, but nobody was there. Backyard empty. I rewound. The footage showed it. A dark figure. Standing motionless. For 6 minutes. Then gone. No walking away. No climbing. Gone. Like it vanished. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning I walked the perimeter of my house. Nothing. Until I looked up. On my second-floor bedroom window. 3 scratches. Long and deep. Like fingernails. That was impossible. There was no ladder. No tree nearby. Nothing to climb. I started questioning myself. Was I imagining things? Was stress making me paranoid? So I made a decision. I would confront him. That evening before dark, I walked next door. My heart pounding. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Nothing. But I heard movement inside. Soft footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Then silence. I tried the door. Locked. As I turned to leave, I noticed something in the window beside the door. Photos. Pinned to the wall. Dozens of them. And every single one was of me. Walking my dog. Taking out trash. Checking the mail. Sleeping through my bedroom window. My blood ran cold. I ran home and called the police. This time they took it seriously. They went next door immediately. Knocked. No answer. Forced entry. And the house was empty. No furniture. No clothes. No food. Just walls. And in the kitchen, a chair. Facing the window. Facing my house. That's all. One chair. And the photos were gone. The officers looked confused. One asked if I was sure I saw them. I knew what I saw. But there was no evidence. Again, Arthur Vale was gone. But that should have been the end. It wasn't. That night, at 2:13, the kitchen light turned on. The empty house. The empty kitchen. The light turned on. And someone was standing there, watching. I called the police screaming. They arrived in minutes, but when they checked, nobody. Empty. Light off. I showed them from my window. The officer looked disturbed, because he had seen it too, for 1 second, before it disappeared. That changed everything. They investigated deeper. Turns out Arthur Vale had owned the house 20 years ago, but he died, in that kitchen, at 2:13 in the morning, heart attack, alone. And according to neighbors back then, before he died he was obsessed with watching the house next door, my house. But here's the impossible part. I had only moved in 3 years ago, so who was he watching back then? That question destroyed my sleep, destroyed my peace. And then I found the basement. Not in my house, in his. The police found it behind a hidden wall. Inside were hundreds of photos, not just of me, of every person who had ever lived in my house, dating back decades. Organized by year, by room, by window, like someone had been studying that house for generations. And in the center of the room, a chair, facing a television, connected to cameras, old cameras, hidden inside my walls. My house had been watched long before I moved in, and Arthur wasn't the first. He was just the last. Police tore apart my house, found cameras inside vents, behind mirrors, inside smoke detectors, some old, some new. Someone had been replacing them, maintaining them, watching. The question wasn't who, it was how, because Arthur was dead, and yet, someone was still watching. I moved out a month later. Couldn't stay there, couldn't sleep there, couldn't breathe there. I rented an apartment across town, high floor, secure building, no neighbors close enough to watch, or so I thought. 3 weeks after moving, I woke up at 2:13, no reason, just awake. I looked at my phone, 2:13, then I heard it, a knock, soft, 3 times, at my window, 12 floors up. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, and when I forced myself to look, there was nothing there, but on the glass, fingerprints, fresh, long, smudged, just like before. Police found nothing. Again, no explanation, no way anyone could reach that window, but I knew. Whatever had watched me, I wonder if Arthur was never the watcher. Maybe he was being watched too. Maybe that chair in the kitchen wasn't for him. Maybe he was just another person trapped in the same cycle, watching the house, waiting. Because some nights, even now, I wake up at 2:13, and for 1 second, before I open my eyes, I feel it, that feeling, like someone is standing beside my bed, watching, silent, still, waiting. If this story made your heart race, subscribe to the Curious Neighbor's Diary for more true suspense stories that will make you look at your own neighbors differently. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? And be honest, after hearing this story, would you ever spy on your neighbor again? Because sometimes curiosity doesn't reveal the truth. Sometimes it invites it in.